At the climate summit in Poland, the UN Secretary General urged world leaders to take the threat of climate change seriously. He said bold action is needed if nations are to prevent a catastrophic rise in temperatures before the end of the century. But recent events in France might signal a growing backlash against climate change policies.
If we fail, the Arctic and the Antarctic will continue to melt. Corals will bleach and then die. The oceans will rise. More people will die from air pollution. Water scarcity will plague a significant proportion of humanity, and the cost of disasters will skyrocket.
Guterres said nations are not moving fast enough to prevent irreversible catastrophe. But tell that to these anti-government protesters in Paris. They crippled the City of Light, rioting, looting, and even defacing parts of the famous Arc de Triomphe. It was all over a steep tax increase on gasoline. The French government believes it can combat climate change by raising fuel taxes, and that may lead to reduced carbon emissions. But instead, just the threat of an increase led to national fury and mayhem. French President Macron has backed off from implementing the fuel tax increase for now. Their pocketbooks already strained by economic hardship, the skeptical French aren't buying the climate change hysteria. Neither is President Trump, tweeting this week, "I am glad that my friend Emmanuel Macron and the protesters in Paris have agreed with the conclusion I reached 2 years ago. The Paris Agreement is fatally flawed because it raises the price of energy for responsible countries while whitewashing some of the worst polluters." Last year, the president announced he's pulling the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Agreement because it would cripple the U.S. economy.
Thus, as of today, the United States will cease all implementation of the non-binding Paris Accord.
Trump says he won't allow American workers and taxpayers to absorb the costs of those accords in terms of lost jobs, lower wages, and closed factories. Stephen Moore, economist and senior fellow at the Heritage Foundation, says a doom and gloom lobby is pushing the climate change agenda in America and around the world.
I estimate that the climate change industrial complex, and that's what we have today, is tens and tens of billions of dollars to spread this doom and gloom. We've created whole industries of climate scientists to come up with these models that predict the world is coming to an end.
Gary Lane, CBN News.